Changing the Sales Game on webtalkradio.net. I'm your host, Connie Whitman. So happy that you're joining us this week. Now, as you listen to the show, I really hope you feel my passion on this journey of sales, right? And everybody hates sales and we get that knot in our stomach and I don't want to be pushy and all of those things. And that is the furthest thing from where I come. So anyone that's been listening or following me or knows me, I'm all about sales from love, care, and respect. Help you on that journey or that mindset shift. I have a free communication style assessment. The link is in the show notes. You'll get 2 reports. One will spotlight your just natural communication superpowers, which makes any conversation, sales or otherwise, a lot more smoother when you understand what strengths you bring to the table, and more importantly, how you're being perceived. Flip side, you'll get a report showing your lowest score, which is usually a blind spot. And that probably is even more impactful to every communication you have with other humans, right? Because that's who we communicate with, and just make it a little bit easier for you. So again, the link is in the show notes. I truly hope that you take advantage of that and use it. Now, my motivational quote today to kind of set the stage for the conversation with my guest tonight is by Pablo Picasso. And Picasso says, our goals can only be reached through a vehicle of a plan in which we must fervently believe and upon which we must vigorously act. There is no other route to success. So like me, I have a feeling that many of you are aware of inflation, right? And when the tax man comes a knocking, Wall Street casino, unexpected illnesses, and possibly have fears about retirement planning. These are all just a few, I think, of the emergencies that we face every day. And even if you're financially successful, like a CEO, an entrepreneur, an executive in an organization, our lives can change in an instant. Need I say COVID? But when life changes, it doesn't have to be catastrophic. So my amazing guest today is Kris Miller. Now, Kris is known as the Money Maestro and is a legacy wealth strategist. Her clients learn to create incomes they will never outlive and how to change their family's financial realities. Not one person has lost a single dime on her watch, and she's a recognized expert on living trusts and estate planning and a highly sought after speaker and trainer for organizations and businesses, including companies like Citibank and the U.S. Government Financial Officers Association. Kris is the author of a #1 best-selling book called Ready for Retirement: 3 Secrets for Safe Money and a Fabulous Future. So please help me welcome my amazing guest, Kris, to the show. Kris, thanks for being on and taking time to chat and share info with my peeps.
Woohoo! Thank you, Connie. I'm honored to be here and share all these goodies with you for sure.
Yeah. And Kris, this is a really important topic. And, I know I through the years, right, I've said to my husband, "Ooh, we're ahead of the game. Like we got extra money in the checking account," and then the car would break down. Right. And all that money would be gone and then some, right? So we all face this. No one is immune. Money is money, and we all have situations arrive. So let's talk first. How can we protect the principle of our investments and still grow money?
Oh, great question. And your quote was perfect for this whole conversation because, if you want to get somewhere, you got to have a map, you got to have a plan. And there's some amazing things that I've found in 32 years of my practice that I own. And I basically own what I sell. That's it. I can't look at you and say, hey, you gotta buy this stock, but I don't want it. I look at the eyes. This is what I own. It's worked great. I've done well with it. And, just whatever day this is, right? Well, just turn on the news and people are crying. They've just lost a lot of money. The market just drops, 700 points and then goes, they're like tremors for people to be aware. So how do you create money that you'll never outlive that's safe? And these are like secrets of the 1%. I hate that in a sense because it's not secret. It's just not talked about. So that's why I broadcast. So there's several, depending on your age. My favorite one is what's called investable life insurance, the IUL. And what it does is it uses the death benefit, it accelerates the death benefit. So you can use that while you are alive and the money will come out tax-free. inside of this thing. It's incredible. I mean, and I got to tell you, I was 58 when I found out about it. I was so mad. Like, why didn't anybody tell me? And I'm just like honest as I can be. I got one at 64 because I'm in, thank God, fabulous health.
Thank God.
So,
Yeah.
right, exactly. And so it's based on your health. There is underwriting with other, I have other programs that aren't underwritten if you have medical challenges. But the thing about this is that the money comes out tax-free. It grows cash. A lot of people use these things like they can, borrow the cash at 4%, buy, do real estate transaction and pay it back. And then you could set this up to pay you tax-free income for life. And check this out. It's also got catastrophic illness protection, which is the humongous, we just went through the pandemic, right? Well, this has long-term care, so it lets you take 2% of the death benefit so that you can stay in your own home. And that's what I teach my clients, to be able to be empowered and stay in your own home. So it's a fabulous way to go. Oh, and in the last 30 years, they've averaged 5 to 9, sometimes 10% with no market loss. It's a floor, right? You catch the upside.
Yeah, it's a safe vehicle for us to put money. And it's funny, you found this out when you were 58. I'm laughing because they're constantly coming out with, because of the technology now, it's easy to monitor and manage the back end of these accounts so they could become a little bit more creative to allow, right, the protection of the principal because it's in a life insurance, but also when you pull it out, you have that tax-free income. And I just wanted to comment for the younger folks listening, this is really an important concept. I tell my kids, the life insurance, you get it now. Usually you're insurable, God willing, right? That you're healthy. You wish health upon everybody, but you're healthy, you're young. The cost is so low. And what'll happen now over your lifetime, you'll have that for death benefit or spousal, survivor benefits or whatever to help with the income loss if something happens to you prematurely. So you have that. Yeah, that's life insurance. But additionally, you have this growth of your money in there that at some point you can literally stop paying it. But as you get older, it gets more costly. It's harder to reach those break points. So when you're young, anybody listening, please get life insurance. Even if you go, I have no assets, I'm not married, I don't have kids, doesn't matter. At some point, you will have a house or you will have assets that you should have that life insurance in place. And that's true. You're saying I did it when I was 64 because you were still insurable. Thank God. But that's not always the case where we have diabetes and other things that then the fee or the price becomes cost prohibitive. So I just wanted to add that because I have young people that listen, Kris, and these are lessons that you and I, as older women have learned, but you want these kids to understand the benefits of these different vehicles that are out there. So I'm glad you shared that. That's so important.
Check this out. This is a kid that went, someone that 38, this is just the illustration for him. And they can make money even if they don't have a lot of money. He put $500 in a month. And they have to be set up. It's not all life insurance does this.
That's right.
And the way they design the policy. But this kid put $500 a month and he was set to get 80 to 100,000 tax-free for life when he retired. At 38, you just put $500 in a month. Now, 100,000 without tax. Well, if you're in the 40% tax bracket, right? You multiply that. I mean, that's humongous. So even these kids that don't have a lot of money can create cash. It's a fabulous way. And the other way, when you don't have health, if you want me to go into that, was the equity index annuities. There's a lot of them out there, right? Those right now, they've been keeping up with inflation. They were 5 to 9% when they raised the interest rate. Now they're something like 10 to 14%. Tax deferred. It's got a floor on it, so you catch the upside. If the market goes up 2, you make 2. The market goes down 2, nothing happens. The money's still there.
That's great.
And there's no health for that. That just roll the money over, no sales charge. I'm not a fee base. You don't pay me a fee or anybody that does what I do. But I am kind of unique because I have a proprietary, the way they set the policies up. So it's very, very cool. And I'm not selling products. It's like a whole plan. It's like,
Yeah.
how does what you already have work together with everything else? Because when you're 40, it's hard to imagine what it's going to be like when you're 60. When you're 60, what do you need to know about 80? And now we're living to 100. Plan for it. Plan to live for 100. And then you probably take care of yourself better health-wise too, right?
Yeah, and it's important because you're talking about compound interest, right? So compound interest
Exactly.
works in our favor. And the first 10 years of your working life, so let's say 20 to 30, just to keep it easy, that is the most important time to put that money away. Make sure you do the 401k, the matches, all those things, and put a little extra money, as you get raises. Maybe take that amount of the raise and put it in a little account, so that cash, but let it grow, or put it into the life insurance that you've described. And then what happens, you have compound interest in your favor. And then the flip side, right? You and I know this, the credit card. The compound interest can work against you, where it can end up burying you. So the compound interest isn't always nice, depending on what vehicle you're capitalizing on that growth over time. How do you help people? Because here's the other thing too that you said, Kris, that I think is real important. There's pieces of the puzzle. So example, my niece, her and her fiance came over and we're talking about their life insurance. And, I said, right now, buy the whole life because it's inexpensive because you're young and healthy. I said, then when you have a house and you have a $400,000 mortgage or something, then you could buy term on top of it, right? Or then the kids' education. You can't, I don't know, everybody can afford $1 million whole life policy. Sometimes we need $1 million of life insurance so we can stack it. So that's the life insurance piece. Well, how do you help people pay for those unexpected, the catastrophic illnesses, accidents, tragic events, right? That a kid gets hurt in a sporting event, something like that. How do you, in part of your plan, what are some of those recommendations look like? Did that make sense?
That's why I'm a big fan. Whole life was, sort of the beginning of what I'm talking about, but the hybrid is the IUL. Why? Because inside of the IUL, it has catastrophic illness protection inside of it.
Okay.
So if something happens, you can access the death benefit for catastrophic illness. You can take qualified money and pay the taxes. It's called the IRA reboot. Say you have a 401k that's dying in the stock market, you're losing your principal, and you want to get it safe. You can roll it over and actually pay the taxes from the death benefit. So say if you have, $20,000 and you're putting it in there and you have all that tax to pay, you pay it with the death benefit, right? You don't have to write the check, comes out of the policy, and then the full 20,000 or whatever amount it is in there, instead of that you had to pay the taxes from that money. So it's a way, and it literally will lower a third of your taxes from the rollover using the IUL. So there's a lot of goodies inside of that can help. That's my best way. Life insurance does have catastrophic illness protection inside of it and can create cash. So it's designed on your age and your health and your wealth, right? And how this policy is set up. Inside of that, it can cover all those other things that you're talking about, the term and the this and that. You can have one really good policy that has the long-term care in it.
Yeah.
Now, maybe you already have something and you don't really need that. Then you can literally get a life insurance policy that creates cash and catastrophic illness protection. So I don't like standalone where it's like car insurance where you're paying a premium that you're never going to use.
Yeah.
But mind you, I like the one where all that cash is still in your estate. Now, the stats before the pandemic were 7 out of 10 of us use a nursing home after 65. That's huge. Because I've done this for 3 decades, I saw the period where people end up, and this is the majority, I got to write another book about, they end up losing their money at the end of their life, either in a nursing home, probate, or the Great Recession.
Yeah.
And it's sad because like in like 2008, people were coming in and lost 40, 60%. And they're in their 70s and 80s and can't go hustle it all back again. And
No.
it's going to be really hard this next 10 years now that everything is resetting really fast. And I'm like, my podcast is Money 911. I'm kind of yelling. I feel like I'm yelling because I just say it honestly, Connie, you'll know what I mean. A lot of little sheepies are going to go off a cliff and
Yeah.
nobody's telling them. It makes me sad because you can only do so much so that's why I share a lot of this information. It's not stockpile normal. It's unique in that sense on the safe side of looking at everything.
And here's the thing, Kris, people need to, you hear this idea, right? They're listening to this podcast and they're hearing this idea. Go back and explore. Is this a good thing for you to include in your financial plan? Because everything isn't for everybody either. However, if we ask the questions, there might be something that's even better suited for whatever your particular age, situation, financial, what you can afford to pay every month. But you have to know what questions to ask. So these are important questions that we're having today because it just shines a light on things that people maybe never heard of, or they've heard of it, but I'm like, yeah, I don't understand that. I don't want to sound stupid.
Right.
You have to ask questions because your here's the thing, tomorrow's coming and you're going to be 60, 70, 80, 90 before you know it. So what are we leaving? What do we want to leave? Now, if you say, you know what, I don't want to leave money to my kids, then whatever, right? You can say, if I run out of money, I run out of money. But you have to think about your end of life also. I know that sounds so morbid, but what is the expectation at the end of your life? Do you want to leave a legacy for your kids, right?
Right. And that's the plan, right? That you started the show with. If you have the
Absolutely.
plan, then you're living your legacy, and you'll find a lot of people halfway through their life, they turn their whole business into a give back mode. And then you live your legacy so you can actually give back your blessings to everyone around you. But then you have a plan so you're not a burden on your family, right?
Yeah.
If something happens, and you have, if you want to leave something, but you have something for each age, because you'll find each age has an issue, and people are just so, just trying to survive the day-to-day thing. They don't take the time. It's not, no judgment. You go to school, you learn how to make money, you get out of school. What do? Go make money and give it to somebody else to gamble.
That's right.
That's what it is. It's a roulette wheel. Will it be up or down when you retire? And
Yeah.
that's the thing that people don't see because they don't have that longevity. It's not that I'm so smart. I've done this for 32 years, and I just saw, and over 6,000 people just saw patterns like, wow, everybody's losing their money at the end of before they die. It's crazy. So
It's
yeah,
tragic. It's tragic. And
yes,
it's true. Come on, Kris, when we were 20 and 30, I knew it all.
yeah,
Now I'm in my 60s and I think, holy crap, I don't know anything.
yeah, right.
Right. We get humble
Yes,
as we
humble
age,
as we go.
because
Right.
we realize that there's so much information, and
Yes.
especially when it comes to the money, and as the technology changes, things change. Why do you, and I'm sure you recommend this, but why is it advisable to create a living trust?
Well, that's a great question because, the living trust is a legal document that's created to own and manage your estate. This isn't just the end of the life document, which people think. Most people don't even know what a living trust is. But what it does is it protects you if you pass away, right? When you pass away, from going to probate. What's probate? Courts. What do courts take? Attorneys. And what do attorneys take? Right? Money.
Yeah.
Right. So a living trust protects your estate and lets you leave your estate directly from you yourself to your family with no middlemen. You don't need me. You don't need attorneys. You don't need courts. Now, inside of a good revocable living trust package, should have a power of attorney for financial. That's something we need right now. Look,
Absolutely.
go skiing, you break your leg, who's going to take care of the bills, right? Power of attorney for healthcare. Hey, I want someone in my family to make my medical decisions and not some doctor that looks at my insurance policy. Just being real here. That's really important. And real strict with my health. So there's certain things I want and certain things I don't want. And I don't want to compromise that. So that health care is done ahead of time. And you know what? It's off my mind. I don't have to think about it. Then all my assets are put in the name of the trust. So I'm protected. Hey, here's one for you. Minor children, mom and dad go out to dinner, don't come back. Who's going to take care of the kids? And just like you said, Connie, when we're 20 and 30, we don't think about those things. We're just going to live forever. So it has guardianship provisions, and a good trust has guardianships for minor children and conservatorship for older people. If you become incapacitated, who's going to help you? So it's a full-blown, a good revocable living trust has all of those documents included in it for your whole life. And everybody needs a living trust, that's for sure.
Yeah. And it's funny because my husband and I, when the kids were little, and an attorney happened to be a friend, we were both working in, I was in the trust department of a bank. So dealing with all of these things that we're talking about.
Right.
And so I asked him, I said, can you draw up the documents for us? So he knew me, right, really well, but I'm someone to make you laugh with this one. So we had our life insurance and we put the beneficiary, the life insurance for the, within the trust, the insurance trust. So I always tease and I say that trust, I hope never gets funded because I'd have to die, right? For the money goes directly into the trust. But here's the cool thing that you're talking about, having these legal documents in place. So especially when my kids, they were little when we created this, but I thought, what if they're 22 years old and 25 years old and something happens to my husband and I? We each had $1.5 million of insurance at that time because, we had a mortgage. I wanted to pay for their education. Right now, all of that is kind of paid for. So, but at the time it wasn't. So do you want a 22 and a 25-year-old to get, $1.5 million each to go out and buy the Corvette? So the attorney knew me. This is the funny part of the story. I'm like, can I control how that money is delivered to them? It's like, sure you can. You could put break points. So when they hit age to go to college, they could, as much money as they wanted would have gone for college, graduate, PhD, all of that money. I would love for them to have had the money to be able to do education without taking on debt. But I said to him, but that doesn't mean when they graduate, they get all the rest of that money because you're not going to spend that much money for education. So I said, and we have break points. So even to this day, because the trust is there, right? And I still have insurance, but they don't get the last bit, that last percentage that's in there until they're 45. So anybody listening that knows me, I'm a control freak, but my feeling was, and this is the importance of a trust, right, Kris, is that it's your voice from beyond when you don't have the capacity to talk or navigate. So my kids, even if they mess up financially, when they're 45, whatever little amount of money is left in that trust will then go to them and hopefully be able to get them out of debt, pay for their kids' education, whatever it is. But that's the control that you have with these legal documents, right? So, and I'm sure you have stories that are similar. You have to have these documents in place.
Absolutely. It just brought to mind Bing Crosby, right? Bing Crosby had a trust, and you think you're a control freak. He set his trust up, right? He had a lot of money, right? And they had to be 65 before they got to anything. And yes. And they had to do something good for society, write a book, do something
like that.
Charitable. I like that part too. So, makes them, right, charitable. So that's just, one of those stories just like you. And you can design that. Some people have kids that are on alcohol or drugs, and you could set it up like you have to have 3 years of, rehab and gainful employment, and then you get so much, and you could, absolutely control it from the grave, as they say, or from heaven, wherever you go.
Yeah. But these are important documents. And the other thing I want to comment on that you mentioned was the power of attorneys.
Yes.
And this is one that we don't think about. And I forget her name, Florida Shriver, I want to say. Do you remember she was incapacitated? She was in a coma and they didn't have a living will or anything. And he did not have a power of attorney for her as the health, like the advocate if something happened to her. Remember, the parents came in and would not pull the plug and they went to court. And I want to say it was a good 5 years before he won through, this court decision. In the meantime, she was on life support. He
Right.
went bankrupt. He had met another person that he had fallen in love. His life was stalled and was destroyed financially because he
Right.
didn't have that one little piece of paper to protect him and in this case his wife, right, by pulling the plug.
Exactly.
So there's
Exactly.
all of these documents, and I hope today's conversation just raises your awareness. And the other thing, do you work with business owners?
Oh, yeah. Small business owners, key man insurance, and estate planning inside of that. That's absolutely for sure. Yeah.
Yes. So this is why I was excited about our conversation today, because, we think wealth management, you have to have a gazillion dollars. That's really not the case, because sometimes when we die, the life insurance creates the wealth right after the
Right.
fact. So these legal documents really matter. And here's the other thing, right, Kris? I'm sure you work with attorneys that you trust. They're not that expensive to create.
Right. Right. Well, I make trusts all over the country. I charge $1,200 for my trust. I know
Nothing.
that's nothing. And it's got a power of attorney, financial, healthcare, pour over, living will. You don't want to be on any artificial life support, right? And then a deed. All your assets go in the name of the trust. A lot of people get trusts made. They think they're like a will where you sign them and then they don't put their assets in them. That's the one thing that you gotta review and make sure that everything you have is in the name of the trust and your power of attorney. You want to make sure that the bank has it ahead of time.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they give you a big old hassle, and you have to have the signature card signed ahead of time. And so there's little nuances there. You want to make sure, if you have a trust, to make sure that it's updated and that everything is in the name of it.
And the business too, the key man insurance, right?
Mhm.
Somebody, your right-hand person who runs the operations end of things, they die or they become incapacitated, you still have to run the business. So
Yeah.
so here's the deal, everyone listening, whether you're a business owner, you're young, you're older, and you're thinking, it's too much information. Have a conversation with Kris or whoever your advisor is, but now you have questions that you can ask. And the last story, and I don't know if you used Bill Cosby, but it was Prince, the musician. He had, his estate was ginormous, and he didn't do any estate planning, Kris.
I know.
And I want to say it was he had passed away. It was maybe 3 years. And the estate still hadn't been issued. The attorney, and I'm not saying anything bad about attorneys, but the attorneys were getting paid to try to navigate this mess because he had no will, he had no trust, and the heirs, the beneficiaries, so the assets were being dwindled, and his family never saw anything. And here's, you had to have a patent attorney, I would think. So it again, doesn't matter how much money or how smart you think someone is. Sometimes we have these blind spots because we don't know what's out there. We don't know what we should ask. So trust, wills, all of these things, the life insurance you talked about, they're pieces of your financial puzzle to help you navigate, but also not to have leaks in your boat, so to speak, right?
Exactly. And if your state ends up going into the court system, you lose 5 to 25%, and it goes on. 3 years is not very long. As far as I knew a few years ago, John Wayne's estate was still in probate.
Stop.
Yes, he had royalties coming in. Michael Jackson had a trust, but it wasn't completed, so he ended up in probate. Marilyn Monroe, she had like 1.8 million when she passed, but she had a will. And by the time they were done, it took them 18 years to go through probate. And by the time they were done, she had about 100,000 left over. So
isn't that a tragic commentary?
It's ridiculous. And the neat thing about the trust, it gives you the power. It's in your control, and it goes from you to your family.
Absolutely.
And here's another little thing, that if you have things, just so you don't have sibling rivalry, problems, and mom, you have like antiques or things, go around the house and take a video and go, Grandma gave us this, this chest, and tell the story, and then this is for whomever, and then it's real clear, and then you pass a legacy, because it's not stuff, it's the story of our legacy and our life and the blessings that you can pass to your family. But live your legacy, meaning do the steps now so you don't have to worry about all those things, right?
And here's the other thing too, everybody listening, our capacity for complex financial things, it gets real hard to discern. And as 70 seems to be the magic number where complicated financial matters, it's just hard to sieve through and figure out. So if you can, you truly want to do this while you're younger. And we're out of time, but I want to just share one cute little story. When I worked in the trust department, now this is 25 years ago, dealing with families, Kris, and I bet you deal with this all the time, seeing them fight over the money in the estate. So I remember coming home and having a conversation with my mom and dad and said, I think we need to have a family meeting because I don't want us to have to fight, if something, God forbid, happens to you guys. So we sat down and my dad pulled out a little black book and he said, okay, this will be with our will, but now what do you guys want? And we giggled. We were like, we don't want anything. We want you to be alive. Right. And he's like, but no, okay, let's make believe that we die. Right. What do you want? And it was funny because my younger sister, she's a really good cook. She said, I want mom's pots and pans because they're seasoned, right? And I don't cook. So I'm like, you're going to have the pots and pans because I don't want them. But there was this decoration, a Christmas decoration, and it was old and worn out. And I was like, I want the decor. They all looked at me like, what drugs are you on? I go, for me, it just signifies Christmas. And I know it's dilapidated, but it brings me such joy when I look at this stupid little thing. They were like, you can have the decoration. But the thing is, and then obviously, my dad had a lot of tools. What should we do with that? But we had a calm, rational, respectful conversation. And my mom and dad took the notes in that. We didn't have the video, like you said, now we have it on an iPhone. But what a beautiful idea to take China from grandma and saying, Connie wanted this. And let me tell you, grandma and grandpa got this and they bought it in and that history. Now that China is worth more than the China, it's the story that goes with it. I love that idea, Kris. That was beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So any last little tips before we sign out? And I'm going to give you how to reach you and all of that, but any little tips that you want to give?
I think, take time out of your life, even if it's just an hour on Sunday or something to learn about what we're talking about. You can read my book or you can go anywhere, start to learn about this. But right now, they're changing the money system on us. And it's, they already have a digital coin and they want a one world currency. That's where it's trying to head. We are in those times, I'm going to say. So that's why I'm in the money 911. You want to be prepared. Make sure you have rainy day money. We learned about the lockdown. I used to say 6 to 8 months, but now I say 8 months to 2 years. Have rainy day money. Seriously. And do discretionary and non-discretionary, like keep your receipts for a month and then divide discretionary and non-discretionary. You'll find money. I'm serious. You don't really need another pair of shoes. And how many subscriptions do you have right now? You really don't need. And take that money and put it in your DNT account. Do not touch. You can create rainy day money. So that use that, and so that you will be ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, because life happens, peeps. Life happens,
It
right?
happens fast. Yeah.
So here's the deal. You need more Kris clearly in your life. And the podcast is Money 911. That should be a must listen to, because you cover so many strategies and ideas and tips and things that are happening currently in the marketplace. So Money 911, subscribe and go listen to Kris there. A website is healthymoneyhappylife.com, which I love. So it's healthymoneyhappylife.com. I will put that in the show notes. If you have a question that you think, oh, I really need to talk to Kris, go to Kris, and it's KRIS at healthymoneyhappylife.com. Again, I will put that in the show notes. And you do have a free gift, which I'll put the link, but tell us about that, Kris, please.
Well, it's a next chapter checklist. So it tells you things that you should be thinking about, kind of gives you a little outline. And you can hop on actually at your legacy shift and then you download this things that you want to learn about and think about and know about. So if we're not connected, at least it'll give you a little map, right? For a plan retirement early, pre-retirement. That's what it's about, for
I
sure.
could tell you, I loved the title of the book too. I giggled because, of course, I'm
Yeah.
later in life. I have a finance background, all of those
Right.
things. I was like, I love the title. So
Thank you.
that link also will be in the show notes. Another valuable resource. Take the time. And Kris, I love that last piece. Take an hour on a Sunday, first thing in the morning with your coffee, and just read for an hour and
Right.
start to create priority and make a list of the things that you don't have that maybe you do need. And then you could reorg and prioritize them later on, or meet with Kris or someone like a Kris that you might be using already. But that is a great strategy. So I love that. Take 1 hour. We're not saying sit down for 20 hours a week, 1 hour,
Right.
cup of coffee, cup of tea, and try to work through it. Kris, thank you so much. I love talking about money. More importantly, I love talking about protecting people's assets so we can leave a legacy for our kids. Because I know you and I, we work hard for our money. I
Right.
don't want the money to go to a nursing home or to the government. Not that you don't want to pay your fair share, right? We do, right? We have to be part of the community. But I do want to leave something to my kids or grandkids or great grandkids, whatever it might be. So
Right.
planning is where that kind of legacy is born. So again, use Kris's free gift to help you begin to formulate what those steps or what that plan looks like for you, because everybody has a different agenda or expectation. So your plan might be a little bit different than your neighbor. So again, use it as a tool. Kris, thank you so much for sharing just your zone of genius. Really wonderful. And you're just fun. You're just fun to hang out with. I like it. I like, that we could be goofy, but talk
Yeah.
about a very serious topic. So thank you for
Exactly.
that as well.
Thank you. It's been a pure joy to be with you.
Me
Absolutely.
too. Me too. Back at you.
All
And I
right.
hope you will join me weekly as we question, build, and discover together. No matter where you are on this trajectory of change in business or life, I hope between my guests and I that we help support you, but certainly share ideas and strategies that you can implement today. Download the book today and put it into action. Information is beautiful. If we do nothing with it, it's information. Putting information into action, that's where we have magic. That's where we leave legacies. And that's what my wish is for all of you that listen to the show. So thank you for tuning in to Changing the Sales Game with me, your host, Connie Whitman, on webtalkradio.net. I wish you an inspired week filled with magic, but you have to create some action to get to that magic. So download the book, download the information from the website. Do something different and really, really see how your life changes. It's miraculous. I love you all. Kris, thank you so much. And I'll see you all next week. Have a really good one, everyone.